My name is Derek.
I'm Amy.
How are we related, Amy?
I don't know.
I don't know. You're adopted.
I don't even know who you are.
That's what I thought you were going to say to me. Not what I'm saying to you. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got that. No.
I was wondering what it might be like if we introed ourselves. And would it be, if you were to give me an intro and I would give you an intro, it would be Amy, 24-year-old sister, married. How many years?
2.
2 years.
Yes.
Then you would say me.
Derek.
Old.
Older brother. 38.
38. Oh, good call. Good call.
I knew. 38-year-old older brother.
Married
10 years.
10 years. Well done. Well done.
I know a thing or two about you.
All right, everyone.
Brother.
So we are hopping in
Yes.
and going back to the marriage topic.
Yes.
So anyway, if you're married or not married, or if you're in a committed relationship or not in a committed relationship, you feel free to chime in with your perspective about relationships as we go back to Linda and Charlie Bloom's book, 101 Things I Wish I Knew When I Got Married. All right, Amy, do you want to go first?
Yes. So my first one is 50. Page 129.
Ooh, actually, I wanted to choose this one, but it was in your section, so I didn't. So,
Yeah, so I picked it.
I feel like Jesus is going to use this chapter to minister to you.
I feel like he needs to minister to you. Administer some.
Please, Jesus, minister to me. I'd love to receive that ministry. Now, okay, before we even read any of the book,
What's the title?
chapter, it's if your partner is being defensive, you may be giving them a reason to be. First, before we even get into the book, first perspectives on
If
the
your
title.
partner's being defensive, you may be giving them a reason to be. I believe it's hard to like focus in on a relationship. Like focusing on a relationship, it's hard to take the blame 100% for everything.
Preach it, sister.
So if you feel like your partner's being, defensive?
Yes.
If you feel like your partner's being defensive, maybe the approach on how you're speaking with them, what you're doing, you need to maybe take a step back. Or mom always tells me to write a letter. Maybe you should write it down.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, but I just keep it to myself because then I feel bad.
So it worked to
defuse the Amy.
Diffuse.
Yeah.
Yes.
I leave them lying around the house in case Jeremy ever finds them sometimes. But he's not very.
This is my angry corner of the house. If you ever want to know my angry thoughts about you, you can come read these letters over
He's
here.
not very curious. He doesn't read through them. Yeah.
Okay. Case study, example of real life. You went to the King William parade on Saturday.
did.
I said, why didn't you invite me?
Yes.
Maybe that question was a little bit rough around the edges, to which I would, and from my humble perspective, my humble superior perspective, was that you got a little defensive about saying that I was invited to the parade.
Yeah.
And
I realized where the issue came from.
Oh.
You didn't reply to me. You stopped texting me. How was I going to invite you if you didn't text me?
Well, I was trying to take the humble route and say that to this chapter's point, you got defensive, but maybe I was giving you a reason to be. Of course, it's the principle applies even in brother-sister relationships, friendships.
Yeah.
Is when somebody's defensive around you, maybe you're provoking them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe the person is being defensive can just be a little bit more understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, Derek.
Okay, so how could I have asked you the question or structured that differently to have made you feel more willing to maybe take ownership in understanding that it's actually your fault?
Oh, you could have said, was I not invited because I didn't reply to you? And I would have said,
That's so
yes.
specific.
yes, that is why. You're right.
Okay,
Had you replied, you would have been invited.
I think my brain wouldn't have been able to even grasp even anything close to that. Maybe the question would have been, "What? Oh, is there a reason I wasn't invited?" See how soft that was.
Yeah, and I would have said, I thought I invited you.
Oh, see, you still did it.
But I did. Like, I genuinely thought I had invited you. But then when I went back to the messages, I saw that the messages stopped. And I was like, oh, I didn't invite him because he stopped texting me. So you asked me if Jeremy was going to go. And I said probably. And then no más messages.
Yeah. Okay, so my turn then. So you gave your input about what I could have done. So my input to you about what you could have done to not be as defensive inside of it. So go ahead and role play.
I'm Derek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are all her muscles, by the way.
Patting myself on the back. Okay. Why didn't you invite me?
Oh, I never want you to feel uninvited to anything that I'm doing. I always want you to feel invited. So I'm sorry. I must have miscommunicated. In my head, I thought I did, but maybe I miscommunicated, or maybe I didn't say what I thought I said.
Oh, wow, Amy. I'm glad you're taking responsibility. You're showing real improvement.
See? Wasn't that so wholesome?
Yeah, it was. Making me look good.
All right.
But yeah, completely understandable. It is. I guess you're right. There's a better way. There's a better way to take responsibility. There's a better way to approach even a problem in general.
Well, have you heard of emotional intelligence before? Like the phrase?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thought process and an exercise where people could tap into. For example, if you're interacting with somebody, if you could ask yourself, what emotion might they be feeling right now? So, not that I was, because that was really like all joking to me.
Yeah.
But somebody in real life who didn't feel invited, I can imagine how maybe they feel a little bit insecure or sad or alone or left out and all of these kind of negative feelings. So then for me, when I put myself in their position as far as emotionally where they might be, if somebody felt uninvited, unincluded, left out, then it does motivate me to be compassionate. Back to kind of even what we're saying here.
Yeah.
And I think you too. I think if you if I had maybe said it in a more like vulnerable way, maybe I said, I felt kind of bad. I felt bad that I wasn't able to go too. Now, of course, you still could have just been like, "Oh, that's your fault," or maybe you could have, and then maybe that would have inspired more wholesome compassion,
right.
empathy, sympathy, all of these things. So all I have to say is, I think that the approach for sure can provoke defensiveness from the other person.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody, I'd hope that no one person is out here in any kind of relationship, whether it be brother-sister relationship, mom and daughter relationship, significant other relationship, is genuinely trying to do something to harm the other person. I think that a lot of times people make decisions and they're not directly thinking about how it's going to affect someone else. So I think a lot of the times when they make that decision, someone will come at them like if they purposely made that decision for the bad thing to happen, for the bad cause and effect, that in the way that it hurt me with the decision that you made. But it's like originally I wasn't thinking about you. And it's hard when, especially with a partner, with your significant other, for you to feel like, well, you should think about me in everything that you do. And, it's hard enough to think about how something's going to affect you personally in a positive manner all the way around, let alone you, your partner, if you have kids, and everybody else.
Yes. To that point of this idea of thinking about somebody else, especially like, let's say if you're hungry or feeling sick or hungry, sick, and a little hurting, then you're like in three different, you know, things that make you think about yourself.
Yeah.
And then so it's something that's hard. I know if let's say I'm hungry and I have a headache and I'm driving, I notice I'm less gentle. I'm less patient.
Yeah.
You know, when Angela and I are having a conversation, and then like she'll call me out on it, and I'm like, okay, like again, I kind of wanted to be defensive, but
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm doing all these, I'm driving. How
Yeah.
am I gonna use the filter of gentleness while I drive and turn and look at the map and you know?
Yeah.
So all of that to say, I want to say something else too. You said about
Yeah.
defensiveness.
How you affect your partner. Oh.
Oh
you
yes,
don't
this is what it
care.
is. This is what it is. Okay, so when you were saying it, the visual I had was separating it between, like, if you had a page in front of you, drew a line in the middle, and hey, there's the emotional side on the left, there's the logical side on the right, and then understanding when you got to dip into which one. So an example that I've used with a few friends is, let's say if we have a kid one day, we have a kid and he's in his room, he's scared of the monster in his closet.
Yeah.
Logically, there is no monster in his closet, right? So that's the logic.
Yes.
If I'm just thinking logical, there's no logic in the closet. Go back. Now, emotionally, I'm going, oh, okay, how does he feel? He feels scared and frightened. Okay, like, how can I shift this emotion?
Yeah.
Oh, son, let me get my sword real quick, and let me get my flashlight, and we're going to go defeat that monster. And all of a sudden, I'm fighting the monster, and I'm beating the monster down, or maybe the monster's getting me, and I'm wrestling back and forth with the monster. But ultimately, I'm trying to make him laugh or entertain him and make
Yeah.
him feel we're victorious. Hey, son, get over here. Let me you know, you get the monster too. And all of a sudden, we're in this wrestling match with the monster. The monster loses. And now we've created this emotional experience. But what I had to do is turn off the logic and just go, my son feels scared.
Yeah.
So how do I stay there stay there in the emotion and appeal to that emotional being that's going on, as opposed to being logical? Back to our situation again, not to like harp on you or whatever, but like the idea is, if I had emotions of like, oh, worry, oh no, I felt sad or whatever,
Yeah.
then the emotional response would have been something. What would you say the emotional response would be? Like,
If someone else is feeling sad.
right, well, or potentially, let's say if I was feeling sad, if I felt kind of left out.
Oh, okay.
Because the logical one is, oh, let's go back to our text message to see if I actually invited you or not,
Yeah.
right? But then the emotional side would be what?
Oh, I stabbed myself in the heart.
Right. yeah.
Oh, I can't believe it. Yeah.
Which that was way better than what I was thinking in my brain. I was thinking more almost like logical emotional, which was more like, oh, like, I never want you to feel like that, big bro, whatever. But
Yeah.
but that visual that actually does make me laugh, and it
Yeah.
make me think about she didn't put it back on me, because emotionally, if you knew somebody feels, again, sad or left out. The last thing you would want to do is say, let me logically show how you're wrong. So now you feel sad and left out and incompetent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like less and less. But if you can like understand that, or anybody can understand that in a relationship, then you can kind
Yeah.
of tap into, what do they need emotionally? Like, what do they need from me? Entertainment,
Yeah.
comfort, reassurance, some of these emotions.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely don't lose anything by being comforting and not, having to make sure that the other person's wrong.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You're not losing.
Yes. Good discussion. Shall we see what they said in the book?
Let's check it out. Page 129.
I'm gonna turn the AC down a little bit because I all of a sudden got heated. All right. Okay. Charlie, you're being defensive, I yelled at Linda. And of course, I was right. It didn't matter to me that I had played a big part in her feeling the need to be defensive. When someone is attacked and feels that they are in hostile territory, the urge to defend inevitably arises. A little knowledge is truly a dangerous thing. In the earlier days of our relationship, a little knowledge is all I had. I had enough knowledge to recognize Linda's defensiveness, but not enough to recognize my part in it. I had enough knowledge to engage often successfully in power games, but not enough to see the consequence of my competitiveness. I had enough knowledge to maintain the upper hand, but not enough to manage to put down my weapons when they were causing more harm than good. I accused Linda of being defensive more times than I care to admit, trying to get the focus of attention off of me and onto her. Although I could be a slow learner, I generally remember the lessons that are hardest to learn. This one was particularly tough for me, but I finally got it in the depth of my bones. The better you listen, the less defensive your partner will be. Ooh, bar. The better you listen, the less defensive your partner will be. Instead of trying to get your partner to become less defensive, ask yourself, what might I be doing that could be contributing to her feeling unsafe? Like, maybe I asked the question wrong. Maybe I was more accusatory in what I said to you. The moment of consciousness that gives rise to the question breaks the cycle of escalating tension. You can ask yourself the question, and you can also ask the other person, is there something that I'm doing that is causing you to feel unsafe or uncomfortable? It's the genuine curiosity and concern for your partner that opens a deeper connection and breaks the impasse of mistrust. Instead of trying to get our partner to lay down their sword and shield first, the challenge is to be courageous enough to do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we do that, they are invited into vulnerability rather than pushed into it. This process of personal disarmament, that's a weird word, of disengaging ourselves of our protective mechanisms in the face of danger requires great courage and commitment. Yet this is precisely what a committed partnership calls forth from us if we are to honor each other and ourselves in a loving way. It's difficult at first, but with practice, we can cultivate a taste for the rawness, and over time, we can come to enjoy the vast energy that our openness activates within ourselves and in the relationship itself.
Wow. I think about this, and it's like, as you're going through your daily life, as you're running into issues, when can you tell yourself, like, remember what I read in that book, you know? Like, is it in the moment when somebody's being accusatory towards you? Or is it in the moment when you're doing it to someone else and then they get defensive? You know, like, thoughts?
Yes, I think there was a marriage retreat that we were at a few years ago. And at the marriage retreat, we heard a couple describe one of their processes for navigating conflict. So if one person was addressing the other person, hey, I'm going to bring something up in you, and then something you did wrong, you didn't invite me, or whatever it is. Now, what they shared was they practiced a 24-hour principle. So the other person couldn't fire back for 24 hours, which is kind of an interesting thing. Even when we tried to practice it, when we were practicing it really, like, imagine, like, you just can't even argue. Like, you took away all my weapons to argue. Like, oh, so I can't say that what I did was your fault. So again, back to even the example we used before, which was the idea of taking the trash out. Oh, well, you should turn my alarm off, and then my alarm was for the trash. So instead of this, it was you that turned my alarm off that made me miss the trash. Now it's going, oh, wait, hold on. I just didn't take the trash out. Oh, yeah, you're right. My fault. Like, if I can't come back at you, then it really, I feel like it cripples, it handicaps the ability for me to be able to argue.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But you're right. I think there is a challenge to remember the principles that even work. Even, you know, hey, I wrote a marriage book, and I have a whole the longest chapter in the book is about conflict resolution, and it doesn't mean, oh, now I'm immune to conflict, and now I don't respond back, or I don't get defensive when she comes at me with anything.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely, I think just trying to keep yourself in the mindset, in this, you know, a position to try and remember the things that you even are learning, you know? Because I feel like so many times people are scrolling through TikTok or they're, you know, looking at so many different things. And even, let's say you're talking about marriage or you're doing something, you come up with something, you know, people talking about, these are the 3 things that you know, marriage counselor, these are the 3 things that if some people who are married say to each other, they're more likely to get divorced. Or these are the things that I see in couples who are more likely to stay together. And it's like when you sit there and you watch the videos and it's like 60 seconds, you're like, oh, I need to remember that for the future, you know? And then a lot of the times in the future, you end up just making the same mistakes. I don't know if it's because it's like such a condensed amount, but I feel like even like books that I read, I have to like take notes in order to really even remember what's going on. But I know that maybe some people retain knowledge differently.
Yes. Did you study or like remember hearing about Pavlov's dog and the steak and all of that?
Bell.
The bell, right.
Yeah.
So it's like I think the initial stimulus was the steak, but the idea was bell, steak, salivate, bell, steak, salivate, bell, steak, salivate, and ultimately he's able to remove the steak and it's like bell, salivate.
Yeah.
So like the initial thing that was physiologically causing the dog to salivate, it was just removed. But I just think about how much we're like that as human beings, like to the point of, why do I go back to a behavior I know is not good? I've already studied it. I read about it. In my case, I wrote a chapter about it. I wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
I've went to marriage conferences about it. I've had conversation with family about it. I know certain behaviors are toxic. I still do them. And then to me, it almost reminds me back of the dog. Like it's, I've conditioned myself back to the defensiveness when I feel attacked to attack back.
Yeah.
So what's the bell? It's the attack. Ding, you know, salivate, you know, like as far as like attack back and get defensive, as opposed to, oh, I feel attacked. Oh, okay, cool. Let me stay here for a minute and focus on me. So
that kind of makes sense. Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Yeah, but it's like that neurological concept, like that we kind of have these neurological pathways getting kind of carved out and grooved in, and it makes it difficult for us to get out of that because we kind of programmed ourselves to think that way and to respond that way.
Yeah. Yes.
Or as the dog's story, we've conditioned ourselves to respond in a certain way. So then it's like, how can I recondition, reprogram, rewire self to not be defensive, to not attack, and to be more compassionate, kind, considerate?
It's a good idea. Good thoughts. All right.
All right. You picking one of mine?
Yeah. Yours is 99. So 99 is marriage can stay fresh over time. Any initial thoughts? Marriages can stay fresh over time. You, now that you've been married for 10 years, do you feel like things are still fresh?
Okay, that's a good question. And a part of me, I find myself asking myself a few questions when it comes to my own situation and what I see generally, what I witness. What I mean by that is, when we're talking to the regular people who are in regular marriages and who have different support system, maybe a different family and different set of resources, different set of time to be able to invest in resources and all of these things, I ask myself, well, the thing that people talk about when it comes to privilege, and whether it's, oh, well, you got money, like, like pursue your dream or start a podcast, and the single mom with 5 kids is like, what? Like, what time? We're doing this sport and that sport and this sport. It's like, oh, like pursue my dream of podcasting, and it's like, wait, what? How? Like, oh, you say that as a person of privilege, where you have the time, you don't have kids, you don't have pets, and all of these things that you don't have. So then the importance of us to be able to understand somebody else's situation, it makes me hesitant to go, my situation is very comparable to others. So if we've gone to a marriage retreat for 10 years, and then we've gone to 2 of them for some years, and we've been to 15 different marriage retreats to strengthen our marriage, is it suitable to compare ours to someone who doesn't invest in their marriage? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all of that to say, so let me share my jaded response. My jaded
Yes.
response, even in my own marriage, it could be like, wait, and maybe that's that demon on the left shoulder versus the angel on the right shoulder.
Yeah.
The demon is going, yeah, right. Like marriage is actually staying fresh, is staying good. Like how many, like the demon is going, how many do you really know?
50% statistics.
And so anyway, to hear that I become hesitant. I think I'm less. I think if you would have asked 20-year-old me, I think the romantic in me thought that everybody could have a great marriage. The 38-year-old me is going, there's so many bad marriages. There's so many people who are like low key miserable in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, I have more friends. I have more family members that are married now than ever. And then I have more safety built with friends who were able to talk about marriage very, very openly without needing to put a filter up of how great it is. So in other words,
Yep.
the friendships I have now, we're able to talk more openly about how bad things are, which is helpful on one side as far as like the reality of marriage, which
Yeah.
we might not, just thinking about my friend group. If we were all getting kind of married at the same time, nobody was able to say, hey bro, like this gets really rough and difficult.
Yeah.
And not fresh,
Yeah.
along the way.
Yep.
So, and then depending on the season that you're in, if you're in a season, like the harsh
winters, yeah.
harsh winters from last time, then like the idea of even visualizing that it could stay fresh, it's like if you're in a harsh winter,
Yeah.
you're like, nah, I'm maybe I can see.
I'll be
Go ahead.
okay to get to nice calm like area. What is like a calm? What is it called? Like calm sea or like a calm summer. I don't need it to be live spring or nothing. Like what is it when the flowers first start to bloom and stuff? That's spring, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be like all of a sudden goes from harsh winters to everything's gonna be all flowers in the bloom. No, it's like maybe I just don't want it to be so windy outside.
Right. Or the visual I had is like the raging sea with the ship is almost flipping upside down, but then there's also the pirates who are throwing the cannonballs at you and you're being attacked. And we don't have to get to a perfect calm sea, but can we just get to like a little bit of waves?
Hanging out. Yeah. Not even just like, doesn't have to be a great day, but.
Yeah. So anyway, I could find myself being more agnostic.
Yeah.
On staying fresh. And then the reality is sometimes it's like the marriages that seem fresh are they marriages that I don't know about. Not to be like so jaded.
That's what I wonder too.
Not be so jaded where every marriage is bad, but like it makes me a little bit less. Again, like not that every person needs to tell me the bad things about their marriage because that's horrible too. But when I know bad things about somebody's situation, it makes me go, oh, when I see something good, okay, but there's a lot of good in here, even though there's some bad. So in other words, authenticity for me is proven by some of the vulnerability of bad stuff exposed about the relationship that helps me understand how things could really be. David Sullivan.
Y'all look familiar.
And David, what happened, bro? I heard you're not coming back next season.
God.
Do I have a sad emotion? Let us know. You're in our thoughts.
Yes.
We heard you're taking care of the injury. So, power to you, brother.
Yep.
All right.
So, thoughts. Marriage, staying fresh forever. What was it that it said? It said marriage can stay fresh over time. So, to me, does that mean like it can, like, I feel like it's a season, it can be fresh like for a little bit. It can feel like, first butterflies again. You know what I mean? You can kind of get to that place probably. But stay fresh forever? Like, to me, I don't think so. I don't know. maybe there are some people, which I mean, I have said it in the past. So, should be chillin'. Thoughts, ideas.
Oh, you want to read David's comment?
Yeah, I can read it. David says, "It's summertime. No one wants to play when it's 104 outside. LOL. Couldn't write that in the group chat. Scotty removed everyone all quick. LOL. Good luck though."
Oh man. Well, we heard it was about an injury. Maybe there's a couple of different stories running around about you. But anyway, we're glad. We're glad. No, that's the wrong word. We're sad. It rhymes with glad.
We're glad you're not in pain. We're glad that everything's okay health-wise.
We're glad you won't overheat in that 104-degree summer of the evenings. Is that hot in the evenings as well?
Could be. That would be great. We can all go swimming after.
Swimming where?
Where else? Mom's house.
Do you have friends over there often?
I go over there.
Right. Okay.
Only bad intentions.
So would you get approval? Is that the way you would approach? I'm trying to imagine.
I would just call them and be like, "Hey, all of us are going to go over there to go swimming."
All right. David's last comment says, "Haha, yes, I played last summer. Got to 112 on the field at night." Y'all stay safe.
We will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you would ask for permission? Or you?
No, I would just be like, "Hey, we're all going to go over there."
You tell your mom and your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to tie up the dog.
Okay. Got it. All right. Staying fresh. Are you going to read the chapter for us?
Yeah. I will go ahead and read the chapter.
How to keep your marriage fresh all the time in whatever season, no matter what.
Yep, so fresh you didn't even know them. Just kidding. Madeline and Steve were participants in a workshop we taught several years ago. Madeline dressed conservatively and wore no makeup. She was a librarian and Steve was an accountant. They had been married for 22 years. Although on the surface there was nothing particularly striking about this couple, they had a special vitality between them that you couldn't help but notice. I was so delighted by a story they told me during a break in the workshop that I had to tell it again to the whole class. While Steve was out of town for 2 weeks on business, Madeline took the time to reflect a bit about how marriages can slide into complacency and predictability. She knew it was time to do something out of the ordinary to refresh their relationship. She went to a friend's house to borrow clothes that were entirely out of character for her. Although she had long, shapely legs, she didn't own even one miniskirt. Her friend loaned her a very short miniskirt, a heavily padded push-up bra, a skimpy low-cut tank top, fishnet stockings, and stiletto heels. She rented a long platinum blonde wig and got a manicure with long acrylic nails covered with purple polish. On the day of Steve's return, he was planning to take the airport shuttle home as he usually did, but Madeline showed up to the airport in her risque attire, wig, heavy makeup, and purple nails. When Steve got off the plane, she walked up to him and in a convincing Australian accent said, "Want a date, mate?" Steve swore to us that he didn't know it was Madeline. He said he felt that there was something vaguely familiar about the woman, as if he may have seen her somewhere before. He just shook his head and kept walking towards the baggage claim. She persisted and kept talking to him in the Aussie accent. Finally, Steve caught on. They happily reported they did not go home after leaving the airport. Instead, they went to a motel and had an entirely lavish time. We got the message. There is Much to learn from Madeline and Steve's story. We need to pay attention to our relationship and not allow routine and predictability to dominate it. To keep a relationship fresh, we need to step out of character from time to time and give and receive the gift of novelty and innovation.
I
don't know about that.
Okay, so your homework is to, after this, go get a wig.
I don't know about that. I really feel like Jeremy would be like, "What are you doing? You're a mom. You need to chill out right now." I feel like for me and Jeremy, it would be a surprise if we even got dressed up to go on a date together. We just go in sweats and t-shirts.
Yeah, there is
without the blonde wig.
Without the wig. There is something about humor that seems to, if we were to create a list of, hey, what are some things that might keep it fresh from the observation that we've had or that we've heard about, which that seems like a really extreme version of like mixing it up, keeping somebody guessing, which, again, I'm not even down on that. I'm not saying I'm going to get a wig or anything, but the idea of doing something different. Somebody was telling me they're reading in a medical journal that happened to be about the scientific ways that you stay happy in marriage. And one of the reasons that you get the butterflies in the beginning of a marriage or the beginning of a relationship is because there's so much newness involved. You might go to their house for the first time, their new family, their new background, and they tell you about who they are, what they like, their hobbies, their music. All these things are very, very, very new, and it's like hitting whatever the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, whatever it is in your brain, and then all of a sudden those things become normal. Then I know what kind of music she likes.
Yeah.
I know her family. I know her background. It's no longer new, so it's no longer hitting those same whatever neurochemicals. But back to the journal, it said new experiences together. Might be a new restaurant, new place, new park, new city, all of these things are what can help you have some of those same neurological chemicals of connection. Oh, now it's not a new person, but I'm having new experiences with them that's making us really be bonded and connected.
Yeah. I even think, like, just thinking about the beginning also, for me, when I think about, like, the beginning of our marriage, and the beginning of, like, Jeremy and I, even when we first met each other, thinking about all those things, it's like, it makes me happy. I may not get the same butterflies, but I remember them, and it makes me happy.
Reflecting.
Yeah. Yes.
In those times.
Yes.
Anything else that you might think of that might keep things fresh?
Ooh. Let's see. Not really. Not too sure. Maybe trying to notice something new about your partner. I feel like that's always, always be learning about your partner.
Like,
try to notice something.
Like if you notice, I didn't know you grew hair on your elbow. Look at that. Is that fresh?
Sure. But yeah, like, or just in general, like, oh, you notice they don't like a certain person from a basketball team, then you can make a little paper mache doll, and then during the game you can squeeze it, crush it, or tell them that they can squeeze and crush it. It doesn't have to be a good one. You could just write the name or or
So
something.
who's
You know.
what doll are you thinking of right now? Nicola? Or some other character?
Mm.
Mm.
I obviously haven't been paying attention, Derek.
You didn't watch the game last night?
No.
Do you know who won?
No.
Wait, you have no idea?
No.
What?
Did the Lakers lose?
So you don't know right now?
No, I don't.
How do you not know? Did Jeremy watch it?
Yeah, but it's because I spent the night at Mom's house because I had to get a bunch of Kalal's clothes packed and cleaned, and a lot of them were at her house.
Mm.
So, because we're going out of town.
And you're not exposed to enough of any news websites, sports websites, Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
No.
You don't get on Twitter at all?
No.
Wow.
No. I mean, I do have it, and I do get on every once in a while. Like, I used to be super big on Twitter, like, years ago, but
Yeah.
now not so much. Also, I have Kalal, okay? So, I don't really have time to be staring at my phone for long periods of time.
I thought this was all about you knowing who your partners didn't like on the basketball floor, so that you could.
No, the point was that I don't know, so I should pay attention so that I can, in the future,
Right.
maybe do something
you
spontaneous.
Don't know. So
yeah.
it's something you could. This is more of something you could change.
Yes,
Got
like a
it.
suggestion for anybody out there.
I thought that's something you already did. I didn't know it was something completely hypothetical.
It changes from. Maybe I'll make a bunch of paper mache ones, and then I'll write their name on it whenever I know he's being angry with them.
So Jeremy didn't message you that the Lakers lost?
Nope.
Oh.
Probably because I was rooting for them to lose.
You had a LeBron one instead.
They lost?
They lost.
I knew it.
And they're out.
I knew it. I said that to Jeremy last night. I said they're gonna lose, which he said, "Why do you have to do me like that?" I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was being mean." Sadness.
It's one of the LeBron predictions where you kind of thought about it afterward, or
No, I texted him and I said they're gonna lose.
okay.
Only because I just knew, because the way that they are, like, they were already down. They were already down 3 games. There's no way. I mean, maybe they were gonna win one, but no.
Which they won one on.
Yeah, that's what I
Saturday,
thought
yeah.
too. So last time I was like, maybe they'll win this one, but probably not. But if they do win this one, they're for sure losing the next one. Because that's what happened last year.
Are the Lakers his favorite team?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, more LeBron.
So, are y'all rooting for LeBron to come to San Antonio to partner with Wemby? What?
I don't think that's gonna happen, Derek.
So but are you rooting for it?
Sure. If that makes Jeremy happy.
Hmm.
I'm all for whatever's gonna put him in a good mood.
I find myself reluctant to buy into the concept of what makes somebody else happy. I feel like it's such a temporary emotion.
Okay.
And I'm not convinced. I'm not even convinced that people know what makes themselves happy. Have you ever seen somebody get what they want and then not be happy?
Yeah. Have you met my son? Khalil wants eggs. We give him the eggs, and then he's mad because he can't eat them fast enough.
Yeah. There you go. See, you have a real life example of like helping somebody to get what they think makes them happy doesn't actually work. Okay.
Yep.
Next chapter.
Next chapter.
Is it my turn to pick yours?
Yes. So number 5.
And if you're watching, you're going, "Hey, I have some tips for what could make a marriage fresh." Put that in the comments.
Yes.
All right. Remind me the chapter.
5.
Way over there. Ooh. Chapter 5. There's a difference between judging and being judgmental. Initial perspective.
Yes. I actually wanted to know what you thought about this when I picked it.
Well, I noticed you can be very no. Nah, just kidding. No. Because of the Christian background, like it's such a common trope, which is like this character thing where the non-Christians say Christians are judgmental, and Christians who are whatever mature say the immature Christians are, not judgmental enough, and all of this stuff. And it's like, but with enough time, I enjoy the process, even if I don't go to a technical definition, but to use like a working definition so we understand how we're on the same page or how we're on different pages. So with this, for example, I'll use different words to mean different things. So judgmental.
What's the definition? What are the different? Is there a different definition for judgmental and judging? Right? Is that what it?
Judging would be like the verb. The gurund, I think that's a fancy phrase for what the version of the verb was. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all English majors in the chat. But the judgmental is the adjective. But if you mess around with online dictionaries enough, you get to see, oh, well, I can find a bunch of things that mean whatever I really want them to mean. But I like to separate. So judgmental, the problematic version, is when you're condescending and looking down on somebody else. I'm above you, you're below me, and I'm judging. I'm superior to you, and so there's a condescension that is problematic. Now, some people say this other version of judging is like discerning, like a judge in court. Are you guilty or not? Are you guilty? Are you innocent? It's looking at a situation and figuring out what's best. So I would call that discernment.
Yeah.
They're discerning. They're figuring out what's right, what's wrong, what's mature, what's best, what's worse, all of that. I think all of us do that on an ongoing basis. It'd be like, so somebody to say, hey, I never judge. You never judge like what outfit you put on? You never judge like how long did you brush your teeth?
Yeah.
You never judge like how close you were to the curb? No, you did. No, you were assessing how close am I? So you're judging. So before we say what we never do, we kind of have to define which version of what we never do.
Yeah.
Now, if you're saying, hey, I strive to never look down on someone.
Yeah.
Which can be hard. It can be hard. Does that mean you're never disgusted by what somebody does? You're never shocked and horrified by what somebody does?
Yeah.
Like all of those things. So then, again, that's maybe even subcategories of how you look at, can I discern, hey, that's wrong, and it's also something I don't do. So example, I don't hit my wife, right? I'm saying that's wrong, that's evil, that's bad. And then so I'm saying it's wrong. So maybe we'll call it lower. Now does that mean I'm above them? But now it's how do I address somebody who's been through that? So I'm talking to somebody who's in prison for spousal battery or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
What's domestic battery?
Yeah.
And then does that mean I come at him like he's scum worse than me? No, I'll go, let me hopefully have the attitude that I'm worse than him, even though he's in prison for something that I think is wrong, that I haven't done. That would be my little bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's hard. You're right, the whole discernment and then thinking you're above somebody else. I think it's hard to tell the difference, especially if you're the person who feels like somebody's judging what you're doing, like not just trying to see, figure out what's the best to do, especially I'm thinking about it in like a marriage, right? In a marriage, a relationship, not just as myself, but if I'm making a judgment call, and Jeremy's making a judgment call, and both of our ideas like don't mix with each other, do we have to feel like our separate ideas are above each other's,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so for example, the other day Jeremy and I were getting into the car, and Jeremy hadn't put Kalal into his new car seat yet, like only I had been doing it. So was holding the stroller, and I needed to get everything unpacked from the stroller. So my idea was Jeremy puts Kalal inside the car while I fold the stroller, and then he finishes putting Kalal while I get everything out of the basket so that it doesn't spill in the back of the truck, and then he comes and lifts it in, and then I get in. But so that was my idea of what the fastest, most easy way to do things. Jeremy's idea was, since I've put Kalal in the car before several times, I will do that faster. So for me to do that, tell him what I need taken out of the stroller, and then he does all of that. And then, I get in. But it's like I was upset because I felt like, it's faster if we just do it this way, because so then I don't have to tell you anything, So then I felt like the way that I wanted to do it was superior, and Jeremy felt the same way. Like, I feel like the way that I want to do things is superior.
Mm-hmm.
Was it necessary? We were both judging assessing the situation on what we both wanted to do. We both had an idea, and then without trying to, we then both felt like our method was superior to the other person's.
Mm-hmm.
And then that caused us to be like coming at each other like, oh, well, why are you doing this that way? What's your explanation? So I think it's hard to reel yourself back in, especially in those moments, to not feel like how you're doing this is wrong, and my way's better. The way that I'm doing it superior,
Yeah.
So I think that there's definitely a difference, between us making our own assumptions there, right? And then when we then mixing it with each other was what made a problem as well.
Yeah, right. That's good. That's a really good example.
So what's going into it, then we both kind of like, I'm right, no, I'm right,
In exactly that loving tone. I'm right. No, I'm right. Yay, let's go about our day.
And the problem also is, like, in those high emotion situations, right? So, like, at that point in time, I'm like, okay, well, tell me why. Beginning, middle, end. Why are you right? What is the reason? And I'm sitting there, like, and I can feel myself being, like, condescending, like, tell me why you think that you're right so that I can tell you why you're not. Right. And he's just like, just because the way that you wanted to do it wasn't right. That's it. That's the whole, like, explanation. So then I'm like, I can give you beginning, middle, end as to why I think the way that I wanted to do it was exactly the right way. And it's like, now back to the defensiveness. We were both then being judgmental towards each other. Then we both got defensive, like, no, you should just trust me. And then we're both like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. And the conversation that we'll have in our marriage will be, okay, you can be, maybe back to that concept of splitting something down in the middle, but different categories. If we were splitting a paper down the middle, and then you can be technically and then, like, spiritually. So you have different things.
Yeah.
Technically right, spiritually wrong. Mm-hmm. Spiritually would also be, like, morally wrong. So then, we'll have discussions of, like, if, let's say we're in your exact situation, with car seat, trying to figure it out. I want to do it my way. She wants to do it her way. Okay. She could have been right. Again, I'm just completely in your situation. Mm-hmm. Or what is stay in yours?
Yeah.
No, we'll stay in mine.
Okay.
Okay. She could have been right, but the attitude about the way somebody else is me, that's what makes it. So she technically could have been right. Hey, this is faster, more efficient. This is less energy. This is the smoothest way to do it. But then once the attitude is off, you could be right technically and wrong spiritually.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a quote in the scripts. There's a few of them. There's one that says, "Why not rather be wronged?" It's like, ooh, like, and it's, to me, it challenges the thought process where from a value system, I think before reading something like that, or I mentioned a couple of Proverbs last time, which was there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Okay, so then there's a way that seems right to me, but it ends it being horrific. So then just because something seems right doesn't mean it is right, and it could lead me to somewhere horrific. Or the way of a fool seems right to him, but the wise listen to advice. So all of these things speak to the same concept where there's this, it best suits a person to make a space in their brain that I could be missing something, I could be wrong, and hopefully that inspires the moral side or the spiritual side of humility, understanding, curiosity. Oh, like again, curiosity without condescension. Oh, like no, if there's a better way, I totally want to see it. You know, like
Yeah.
maybe we could time it or whatever next time just to see what's more efficient.
Yeah.
But often, to me, it's like it's that whole vicious cycle concept where one person gets ticked off. Again, that's that bell. The bell rang. Oh, salivate, and then
Yeah.
you salivated. Now that's the bell for me. Oh, I'm salivating. Now we're just doing this thing. Now we're
Yeah,
just
back and forth.
Now we're just in this cycle of toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yupperoni. But yeah,
Shall we read your chapter?
sure.
All right. Is it my turn to read? Your turn to read.
Your turn.
Says, conscious living requires us to make assessments. We assess risk level, cost benefits, and appropriateness of behaviors in specific situations. We have to make certain judgment calls every day. We make judgments in our relationships too, but we sometimes forget that they are personal, temporary evaluations instead of viewing them as objectively, permanently true. Being judgmental in a relationship is usually disastrous because once we attach ourselves to a fixed characterization of our partner, we have a hard time letting go of that assessment and seeing them differently. Paul made up his mind to improve his relationship. He ordered self-help tapes and books and immersed himself in them. He took on the challenge of waking up each day with a total commitment to his marriage. What he was learning began to show up in his relationship with Cookie. He brought her flowers. He stopped watching TV after work to ask about her day. He stopped expecting her to wait on him. He was attentive to their grandchild when she came to visit. But no matter what he did, Cookie continued to view him from her old perspective. It was as if she had taken a snapshot of Paul years ago and glued it to the photo album of her mind. She couldn't turn the page, but still had it open to the same old picture and kept staring at it. Cookie was lying in wait for evidence that Paul couldn't be trusted. Since no one is perfect, of course, she found it. One day, when Paul slipped and told her to bring his coffee, Cookie confronted him with the accusation that he really hadn't changed. After a while, Paul began to feel like there wasn't any point in trying because he knew that sooner or later he was bound to lapse into an old behavior and Cookie would condemn him once again. Although he initially began to change his behavior for the sake of the marriage, he was now doing it for himself. He realized he had no control over how Cookie viewed him. Her intractable view of Paul made her the bigger loser. Being attached to her judgments prevented her from appreciating the changes Paul was making. She couldn't see that their relationship had actually improved. Her attachment to her judgments was so strong that it prevented her from seeing the part she was playing in their relationship being stuck. When Paul eventually told Cookie that he was no longer willing to keep trying to prove his love, Cookie took this as another piece of evidence that he really didn't care and had been pretending all along. Shortly thereafter, Paul made the judgment call that he was unable to persuade Cookie to recognize his love for her as sincere. Cookie's judgments of Paul kept her expectations of him to a minimum, thus protecting her from the pain of disappointment. This couple did stay married, but they were never really happy together. Ultimately, Cookie's attachment to her judgments prevented them from both experiencing a satisfying and fulfilling connection.
Wow. Wow. Even hearing that, just thinking in the situation, let's say that Jeremy and I were in, like attaching, even in that moment, in that situation, having to specifically attach, like, even my idea to me and Jeremy's idea to Jeremy. Like, his idea represents how he is rather than, like, whatever he did, that's over there and Jeremy's over here. Like, we can move forward and we can try to maybe discuss things ahead of time. I feel like attachment is hard when you attach certain behaviors to somebody and then they stick forever, which I was gonna bring out about the whole our, like, seeing. I went through a time when I didn't see my family a lot, right? So, like, I wasn't hanging out with everybody a lot. I didn't see people very often.
When you abandon us.
Sadly. But yeah, so.
JK, y'all. I'm not messing with her, but okay, keep going.
But kind of. So, like, it's because I myself was attaching, negative thoughts or negative feelings about certain people, or not just everything to people, and that was making myself internally bitter, and it's like I felt as time went on, I was having that conversation with Jeremy because, I went through that phase, a while ago, and, I'm not there anymore. It's like Jeremy, I guess, has not gone through that specifically, that specific life event or, whatever you'd say. So as he will have conversations like, oh, if somebody does something that gets on your nerves, why do you even associate with them anymore, even if they're your family? And I'm like, because I no longer attach those negative actions that this person has done or things that they do to the person that they are, to the person that I love. I just love them. I just want to be with my family. And yes, there's some things that people can do that and have done in the past that have hurt me, or even things, currently, things that get on my nerves or things that bother me. And it's like I just have had to learn to not have to do that. And it's because, especially, as you have family members that die, you have family members that die, good people that die, and you don't miss all the things that they, you don't sit here and say, thank goodness they're gone out of my life because they did that one bad thing to me. You think, I missed out on this great person all this time because of, the behavior that they did that hurt me, or, did something to affect me. That's the whole reason that I cut them out of my life. And now I missed out on all these good times. And it's like, I have gone through that to be like, now here I am, and I don't want to be doing that. And it's like, I think thinking about it right now, it's clicking in my brain that I don't think like that enough about my husband, It's like, for myself, like, I get upset and I attach like negative feelings about Jeremy to Jeremy, and that also kind of aggravates me. But it's like, if I'm willing to do that for all of my family members, I should also be able to do that for my husband.
Was Jesus ministering to you? Was I right that Jesus was going to minister to you with these selections? No, I appreciate that. I think that's great insight. It's like different things that we also could understand. Again, the great thing about the marriage retreat stuff or book stuff is, like, somebody else is able to speak to you. They don't even know you. They're just saying, hey, this is what happens in relationships, and they're able to give you truth, what takes place. Again, the idea of what stirs up conflict and causes problems and makes arguments very, very easy. What's those easy on-board ramps to the highway of arguments? Like, again, the nevers, the always. You never do that. Or you always do this. Or, you know, all of a sudden, those absolute words and language just paint the person as a picture of what they always are. Again, the whole cookie situation with Paul, which was, he was actively trying to make changes, but for her, she had attached something he had done in the past of, you always make me do something for you, when he already had actively began trying to serve and trying to help. But she decided almost to get married to this old view of him, as opposed to seeing the progress that he was making.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably missing that opportunity to really encourage and build him up for the good changes he was making.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. I like that one. Who picked that one?
Who picked this book? That was quick, huh?
You were quick with it. You were really fast with it.
All right. We hopping into the next one?
Yeah. Okay, so yours 52. Man, we're just on the third one. Or this is the fourth one? Fourth one. 52. Trust can be rebuilt even after a painful betrayal, but it may require hard work. When you think painful betrayal, I'm sure everybody's mind automatically goes straight to affair, right?
Yeah, infidelity. I think if it's something else, is there something else that's painful? Like if I ran you over or something, if you got ran over by your spouse.
Oh man, there's so many things. I told you, since I listened to all those Reddits.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they get pretty bad. Like, I'll give you one example. There was a story about how a guy, him and his wife had been trying to get pregnant for a really long time. They finally have a baby, and the guy is so happy. His friend comes over so that they can celebrate, and they're getting drunk together, so he goes up to get the baby so that he can show him to him. When he goes to hand the baby to him, he drops the baby and the baby dies. So as a partner, what do you do in that situation? Trust out the window, gone forever.
One, something I learned as a communicator is like when you bring in such a heavy topic. Like we're like a plane. You just dove us right into the Atlantic Ocean. Like we're like 7,000 feet under the ocean right now. I'm going, hey, can I help? Can I pull us up somehow? Can I get us up out of this situation?
That's what
Amy
I'm saying. Like infidelity is pretty bad, yeah. But like, are there also other really bad things? I mean, imagine how I felt reading the story.
Did you cry?
Yeah, I was super.
Are you crying now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But it was sad.
Well, you know what's interesting is sometimes you're listening to music, country music, right? And they're like romanticizing, alcohol and whiskey glasses.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's interesting to hear to have a romantic version of alcohol, but then you hear this horrific story of alcohol and going, if only there wasn't alcohol
involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I wonder did he go to prison?
No, but he was not they were not friends with him ever again.
Who?
So the person writing the story is the friend that dropped the baby. So
I thought it was the husband, the father.
No, he handed the baby to the friend, and the friend dropped the baby.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
Sadness.
Let's
Reel it back.
Again, we're trying to like pull out of the 7,000 feet of Atlantic Ocean. Okay.
So let's not put ourselves in that situation, but trust can be rebuilt even after a painful betrayal, but it may require hard work. So even in, let's say, that situation or in just anything, you as a partner, I can't see it. I feel like it's so hard. I feel like thinking about coming back after infidelity is also hard, Those things, as challenging as they are, to think that there's a way to get to the other side. I mean, obviously, people probably have done it, you know, but how do you let things go? I feel like I would just want to hold on to that like a squirrel with nuts in my cheek, you know? Just chipmunk it.
How do we end this I mean, we're toward the end of the pod, and I feel like if we're gonna go to a baby death to infidelity, I feel like I don't know if there's a way coming out.
Well, let's see how the experts say trust can be rebuilt.
I feel like, well, one, I don't remember how many chapters of this book that I've read across my lifetime, but in my head, it's gonna go something like this. Oh, there's an infidelity. Oh, then they worked through it and they did these things. The end.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a curveball. You could look back at the chapter titles and you pick a more pleasant,
uplifting one. Let's see. Which other one did I say? Let's see.
Or just one that sounds like, oh, that sounds like it's going to be something positive.
Oh, this one, the one that I had picked was commitment isn't a prison. It's a means to greater freedom. Thoughts? 21. Oh, that was me. Though I was supposed to keep that in my head. There, girl, sad now. Shake it off. Shake it off. Don't feel with every story, okay?
Just turn off your heart, bro, and just be logical. Oh.
Yep.
How about? I have a feeling. I don't know where that chapter's gonna go. I know there's at least one chapter in there that it goes something like, "Oh, we're really committed, so my spouse could go out to lunch with people from the opposite sex or whatever." And it's like, wait, what?
Commitment is not a one-time; it's an ongoing process.
But maybe we just share some good news in our lives.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. So, Kalala's still not walking. So, sadness, I have to carry him around all the time, and he's really hurting my back.
Kalala not walking, sadness, hurting my back. Wait, what part of this is the good news?
Good news is I haven't dropped him.
Wow, that just went real dark. We went from 7,000 square feet under the water to like 9,000.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I don't think I'm the best person to think about. Good news in our life. Today we are going to claim our name back. We're going to get our name back at Bad Intentions. Because we were losers last time. But today...
Get our name back as winners? Or
yeah,
what name were
as
you
fourth place.
I was only saying that as a joke in the chat, and it kind of just stuck. But yeah, that's fair. I feel like I'm messaging Scott and asking him who's the person that's not, of the 15 people that were supposed to be on, which person ended up not registering.
I'm wondering too. Or is Scott not including himself? You think maybe he would have counted everybody else and not himself? No idea. Anyways. So.
Okay. So are you...
Did you work out this morning?
Are you telling me you feel good?
Because you have muscle T.
No, I didn't actually. I mean, I guess if you count 12 a.m. last night.
Why were you working out at midnight?
You don't work out at midnight?
I mean, when the gym used to close at midnight, I'd be at the gym.
If you had a gym in your home, would you work out at midnight?
Maybe if I was awake.
Yeah, I was awake.
Maybe.
Wait, last night I didn't work out. No, I watched the game till really late.
Yeah, why are the games so late? So if we did a trust fall exercise and I stood on the back of the truck and I fell back and you just let me fall to the ground, am I strongly to believe that there's something written in this book that is going to make me be able to trust you again?
Something in this book.
Anywhere, maybe anywhere. Would there be anything that could make me trust you again?
Let's create a working definition of trust. What's a working definition?
Working definition of trust to me would be believing in someone else's integrity. Believing that someone else has integrity and is going to do the right thing. But if you already let me hit the ground.
So would trust then be you doing it, the trust fall again?
That would be ultimate trust, I think.
Ultimate trust, to put yourself in the exact same situation. To be hurt again.
Physically hurt. Smack.
Oh, so sorry, curveball. Squirrel. You decided to come back to softball.
I did. I decided to stay in the softball. Ding. Yes.
What moved you over the edge? Because you were on the fence about it. What convinced you to actually stay? Because at one point on the pod, I think you even said, if I don't play, would y'all stop playing too? I'm the glue that holds us all together.
That's why I had to stay. To stay being the glue. Plus, it's fun.
It's true.
Yep. And I'm on this sober journey.
Wait, do you not think that you're now you're clearly better now, which do you not attribute it to sobriety? You attribute it to would you be just as good if you weren't sober?
I think that I used to hit the ball more before.
Okay. False thought, but okay, that's what you think.
I have struck out so many times since being sober. I've struck out more times being sober than I did when I used to drink.
Do you think you scored more?
Yeah, because I do know that when I used to hit the ball, I was always out at first.
So you scored more now?
Yeah, because I used to always be out at first.
Okay, so reconcile those two things for me.
Well, that's because I would hit the ball so perfectly, it was easy to catch.
Before. But you still means you were better then than now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm scared of the ball. That's
now.
why I don't swing, and then I just end up walking.
They've walked you a lot of times, I feel like.
Yeah, they have walked me a lot of times.
But also defensively.
But I want to hit the ball.
This is true, but defensively, would you say you're better? Or worse?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, when I was drinking, I was always in the outfield. I wasn't in the infield.
Okay, so then...
I didn't have the opportunity to show off my skills.
Okay, but so do you think you're better defensively or worse? Not
I think I'm better.
Okay, but you're saying that's not because of sobriety.
Could be. 20%.
And then 80% is what?
Skill.
You got more skills?
Yeah.
From practice? I feel like those catches, if you were less sober, I don't know. Doesn't it make sense that it's harder to catch if you're not sober?
Probably.
Okay. All right.
Line recovery, alcohol recovery. I'm just getting all my life together right here on the pod.
I know. What's the common denominator?
It's this lime Topo Chico. It's this lime mineral water. I love HEB.
Okay. All right. You have any creative way to end this thing?
Nope. That's it.
All right, everybody.
See
Now
y'all
we could all go cry off camera.
If you'd like to look up the Reddit story, you just start typing in stuff.
There is a point when somebody brings up any story where I ask myself, why did you share that? Like, I have to ask, was that an entertainment play? Because it surely wasn't an inspiration play. It wasn't a motivation play. Was it a...
I was going to see if there was something that the book was going to say that was going to convince me that me as a partner, being the wife in the situation, would then trust my husband again.
All right, let's read it. Go ahead.
Which one was it? 52. Page 134.
I did run yesterday. Oh, actually, I did lift weights yesterday, but I didn't do it at midnight.
Okay. When Christy and Forrest got married, Christy was so naive that
What's the chapter title?
trust can be rebuilt even after a painful betrayal, but it may require hard work. When Christy and Forrest got married, Christy was so naive that she actually believed the trust she felt at the time of the ceremony would remain constant, or if it changed, it would only become stronger. So it came as quite a shock to her to discover that trust levels go both up and down in every relationship. When they hit their first painful trust-busting crisis, Forrest's one-night stand. Christy wanted so badly to live in the fantasy that everything was just peachy, that at first she couldn't even acknowledge the loss. Once she faced the truth, Christy fell into despair, fearing that their radiant relationship was besmirched by a hideous black mark that could never be erased. She saw this awful disappointment as the beginning of the end of their relationship, and she concluded that they could never recover from it. These two had a lot to learn about restoring trust. The first thing Christy had to do was confront Forrest with her feelings of hurt and disappointment. Then she had to meet the challenge of taking down off the pedestal her husband and accepting his flaws and inadequacies. On the other hand, she had to resist the temptation to play holier than thou with herself as the righteous one and Foster as the lowly sinner. From this difficult breakdown, they both acquired a more mature perspective, recognizing that they each had foibles and blind spots, as well as competencies and strengths. They spent the next several months having numerous discussions about the conditions of their marriage that gave rise to the infidelity. Christy had to speak from a compassionate perspective without blame or defensiveness in order to create an atmosphere of safety. It took a long time for her to accomplish this by taking responsibility for her part in breaking down the marriage. She created a safe space for Forrest to speak with vulnerability about his part in the broken trust. He was open with her about how he had felt smothered by her possessiveness and had acted out rather than speaking to her directly. He had been immature that night, drinking too much and acting like a single guy. They both learned the lesson embedded in their mistakes about forgiveness and making amends. Early on, neither Christy nor Forrest had any idea that the marriage could even be stronger and more wonderful than before, not despite the break in trust, but because of it. They both learned that a relationship can take some heavy hits, not only make a full recovery, but become more resilient. The levels of trust can improve because of the learning and attention that is required for repair. Deliberate about keeping his agreement and promises, it took some weeks for the diminished trust in their relationship to be repaired. They had both learned how important it is to put the truth out there quickly to avoid the consequences that inevitably result from concealment. Trust was not only restored, but deepened beyond what it had been before.
Did it did that give you anything?
To me, I guess, in anything, I think when you break trust for anything, there's a way to come back. Even the sad ways, sad things that happen just in general. But I know it's hard not to blame somebody. It's hard not to be holier than thou, especially in obviously, corrupt situations. So, did I learn anything right now? Communication. Doesn't make me feel much better about the other thing, but I won't bring it up.
I think communication is an interesting one because when I hear somebody say like communication is the most important thing, I think it's like the only thing. Like everything is that or isn't that. So it's like saying the most important thing about your relationship is your relationship because communication is relationship.
Yeah.
But no, I got you. They explored a few things together to figure out everything that's contributing to maybe the distance they were feeling. But yeah. Well, dang. Well, I don't know if we're any better than the 7,000 square feet underneath the Atlantic Ocean, but you know what? Some days I suppose we'll just have to unpack our parachutes under the water.
I guess I'll stay away from Reddit for a little while.
We'll see. You gonna quit 3 things at once?
Not really. I'm gonna listen to Reddits on the way home.
All right, everybody. Well, if there's a book that you actually would want us to cover on the pod, do let us know.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we'll see you on the next episode. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
Peace.